صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي. You see, my dear brothers, Muslims, non-Muslims, and whoever's here, today's subject is dealing with your ancient religions, your modern religions, and Islam. To show you that this religion, Islam, did not came 600 years after Christianity. It was the only religion that was the oldest since the first man came, Prophet Adam alayhi salam. But to prove this to you, I will take all your ancient religions, like I just said, and your modern religions to show you that Islam is all the way. But before I do that, I'd like to ask my Christian brothers and non-Muslim brothers around here a question. What do you think Christmas means? Because Christmas was about a few months ago. What do you think is the true meaning of Christmas? So I'll give you a 3-minute head start. Since you have in your mind the question, don't answer. Christmas, what does it mean to you? Because many people, when they think about Christmas, they think about a time to get off of work, a time to meet with their family, or their little kids think about, oh, it's time for presents. But according to the Bible and according to Islam, we believe that every word that you speak, you'll be accounted at the day of judgment, because Allah is the only judge, and Allah will judge you. But if we say Merry Christmas, Happy Merry Christmas, we gotta know what Merry Christmas means. We can't just say words just like that and don't know the meaning of it. So, I would like to do you a favor. They got this pastor named David J. Mayer, and I would like to read what he has to say to you. This is his article on his website, The Last Trumpet Ministries, and he explains to you how he was little, how he grew up, his whole history, and how he made the church, and how his church split because of his beliefs. Beliefs against the Christian celebrations. So I'll read to you now his article. What is the true meaning of Christmas? You see, Christmas, what does Christmas mean? Is Christmas supposed to be spelled C-H-R-I-S-T-M-A-S? Is that the true meaning? Is that the true spelling? The real spelling he spells it as is C-R-H-R-I-S-T/M-A-S-S. And by mass, we don't mean your physics mass, your chemistry mass, or your science mass. We mean a religious term of mass. Well, let me read to you what it means. He says, a true Christian will want to examine every word that he speaks. Matthew chapter 12, verse 36 to 37 says, but I say unto you, Jesus saying this, I say unto you, that every idle word that men speak, they shall account thereof in the day of judgment. Like we Muslims believe the day of judgment, they believe in the day of judgment. For by the word thou shalt be justified, and by thy words thou shalt be condemned. So these words that you speak, you should know what it means. If you celebrate a celebration, shouldn't you know what you're celebrating? I mean, if you celebrate Christmas, people think this is a Christian holiday. That's not true. I'm about to give you reasons why later. But let me show you what the pastor had to say. Because any points that I make is not going to be my words. These words I'm saying right now, these are the words of your pastors, your whoever it is, religious scholars, whatever you're saying right now, these are their words, not mine. Because it wouldn't make sense of me to quote my words. You won't believe me because I'm a Muslim. You'll believe the pastors, your people who you look up to. So, let me read it to you. He says the word merry is simply defined as laughter or a word of joyfulness. So he said, here let it be noted that Christmas means the birth of Christ. That's not true. By definition, it means the death of Christ. And I will prove, he's saying, I will prove to you that from the World Book Encyclopedia, by the Catholic Encyclopedia, and by the book entitled The Mass in Slow Motion. he's going to prove to you that this word Christmas is not the birth of Christ. It cannot be the birth of Christ. It has to be the total reverse. The death of Christ. But before I read more later, the words, what do you think Santa Claus means? Because every single time we talk about Christmas, we see a fat man in a red suit named Santa Claus. Where did he get it from? Who is he? Is he mentioned in the Bible? Because if he was mentioned in the Bible, then I can understand why you celebrate him. But if he's nowhere to be found in the Bible, then why are you celebrating a fake man? A man that's not even found in the Bible. Why are you celebrating him? We should know who he is. Some say that Santa Claus is an anagram, meaning if you take Santa, take the N in Santa and put it to the end. So what do you have? Santa, put the N and take it to the end. You have Satan. Now, who's the Claus? Claus sound like, claws that your tiger, the things, the vicious animals, they have to catch animals, other animals that they eat. That's what it sounds like, Claus. So it sounds like to me, Santa Claus sounds like Satan Claus, meaning it's going to have a grip on the people to sway them from the right path. That's what it means by Claus. So, I advise you, before you do celebration of Christmas, you should know the true meaning of Christmas. If you are an honest, this is what he's saying, and discerning Christian, please read on. If not, you might as well stop right here. That's his article. He's saying, read it on, or if you can't bear, don't read it. He says the word Christmas comes from the early English word, Christ's Masse. Christ's Masse. What does that mean? Means the Mass of Christ. That's what it means. Christ's Masse is the Mass of Christ. Where do you get the word Christmas from? And it is interesting to note that the word Mass, as used by the Roman Catholics, has traditionally been rejected by the so-called Protestants. Been rejected by them. They don't accept this. Like your Lutherans, your Baptists, your Pentecostals, and whoever is here. That's who they reject. These people, the Protestants. But they would stand to reason that since all these denominations love and embrace Christmas on December 25th, it is a great homecoming day. For what? What is a homecoming day? What's so special about Christmas? The Catholics want you, the Protestants, to come and become a Catholic for a day. That's what he's saying, a Catholic. And when you sing, I'll be home for Christmas, you're not thinking about, you be home with your family, eat your food, have your enjoyment, your entertainment. No, it's none of that. He wants you to be a Catholic for a day and sing to the Pope that I'll be home for Christmas. But these are not my words. This is the words of Pastor David J. Mayer. And guess what happened? He said, when all the Protestants become Catholic for a day, it would seem to all of the so-called wayward daughters of the Romanist Church return to their mother, the Scarlet Harlot. Thus, all of the so-called Protestant churches could sing to the Pope that popular song, I'll be home for Christmas. Throughout history, the Catholic Church, there was a group of people who broke out of the Catholic Church during Martin Luther time. Not Martin Luther King, Martin Luther in history. And he was splitting off of the church. And since he formed the Protestant side, he broke out the church. And now they have different denominations, different sects. To make you understand this, I don't mean to get off the subject, but to show you that it's the same with Islam. You have many sects or denominations of Islam. That does not mean it's right. That's one thing. It doesn't mean it's right to have a denomination or sect. Because the Quran says, let me read it to you. Because I, as a Muslim, I'm not in any sect. I don't believe in any sect. I'm not a Sunni, I'm not a Shia, I'm none of this. I just follow the Sunnah and the Hadith, the Quran, that's all I follow. I don't make myself a sect to follow Islam. Because that would be contradicting the Quran. So let me make it clear to you Muslims and non-Muslims. I am not in a sect. Let me read it to you so you can judge for yourself if you should be in the sect or not. I'm not going to fuss you to say, oh, this is bad or anything. But let me read it from the Quran what it says. It says, so set thy face for religion, being upright, the nature made by Allah, in which He has created man. There is no altering in Allah's creation. That is the right religion. But most people know that. Turning to Him and keeping your duty to Him and keep up prayer and be not of the polytheists, meaning the ones who don't believe, who believe in more than one gods, of those who split up their religions and become parties, every sect rejoicing in that with it, and when harm afflicts men. In this verse, it's talking about don't split yourself into sect. Read Surah 30, verse 30 to 32. I'm going to read from this Quran the same verses and give you the true meaning. So this is Surah 24. Alright. And the surah name is Arun. So it says, turn ye back in repentance to Him, and fear Him, establish prayer, and be not ye among those who join, those who split up their religion, and become sects. Who is saying this? Not me. The Quran is saying this. This is my book. The Quran, Holy Quran. Read Surah 3, verse 103, and read chapter 6. You'll see all the time it says, don't become a sect, don't become a sect, don't become a sect. But the Quran says, be a Muslim. That's your title. A Muslim. Not no Sunni or Shia it is. You don't have to be a Sunni to follow the Sunnah. Because there is a hadith that Prophet Muhammad himself said that there will be 73 sects, and that one of the sects will be the correct one. That does not mean sect is right in Islam. He's saying that there will be one correct sect, but that doesn't mean it's right to be a sect. Let's get that clear. Because Prophet Muhammad himself said, if my teachings contradict the Quran, this book right here, if it contradicts the Quran, reject it. Reject the teaching. Because the Quran is more strong and authoritative for the Muslims. So what I'm saying is, do not split yourself into sect. But that doesn't mean I have a right to force you to do that. Because there's a lot of crackhead Muslims today. Crackhead. They force people to do that you have to be a Sunni, that you have to be this, that you have to be that. And they use religion in a political agenda, like in the Middle East, to split themselves, fight each other and stuff, and kill them out, or force them. If he's a Sunni, oh, shoot him out, the Shia gonna do. Or the Shia does this opposite. Is that Islam to you? Islam says that He created angels, the jinns, and the humankind. That the humankind and jinns are with free will, that He'll be judged on the day of judgment. But guess what? The angels are not with a free will. But if you judge the man and you say, you have to be a Sunni, like this, are you Allah? Are you acting Allah's role? Allah's the only judge. Allah tells you that, oh, He has a free will. Are you going to be the judge of Him? I don't think you would want to do that, because who will preach your religion and contradict the religion at the same time? Does that make sense? I'm preaching my religion that, oh, this is what Islam is, this is what Islam is, but I contradict myself at the same time. I'll be a hypocrite. And some people, they use Islam to sway for their own benefit. They use some hadith, this hadith, but they don't look at the both sides and then judge like the Prophet do. They'll say one or two hadiths and then use it for their benefit. That's not Islam. The Prophet will look at both sides and judge. And I could give you dozens of hadiths where he talks about that. But this is not meant to stray off the subject. Let's get back into it. Because I brought up the subject for you non-Muslims and Muslims to understand what's denomination, what the sect, according to Islam, what's going on. Now to get back to the subject about Christmas, since we're talking about a Catholic term, which is Mass, Mass is a Catholic word, and the Catholics want you Protestants to become a Catholic for a day, I have to explain what denominations are. Now let's get back to the subject. This is what the pastor says. As previously stated, the word Mass in religious usage means a death sacrifice. A death sacrifice. The impact of this fact is horrifying and shocking. For when millions of people are saying, Merry Christmas, they're literally saying, Merry, a joyful situation. Oh, I'm happy. Mary, I'm happy of this, of the death of Christ. Can you believe that? They're happy to kill their Lord and Savior. What would they believe in? What would they look up to? Why would you want to be so happy to kill your Lord? I'm not saying my Lord, because we believe he's a prophet in Islam, Prophet Jesus. Now, not to waste time, let's get back more. Furthermore, when the fat man in red suit laughs boisterously and says, ho, 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 Merry Christmas, he is mocking and laughing at the suffering and bleeding Savior who died for our sins. That's what he's saying, not my words, because we don't believe that Jesus Christ died for our sins. We didn't believe he died on the cross. That's what a Christian believes. He does this while his parents place their little children into his arms to hear his false promises. Can you believe that? This man in Santa Claus, the parents deceive the children. The one the children trust the most would think least that their parents will deceive them to believe that, oh, Christmas is real. Can you believe something like that? Something so religious, their parents lied to them in the first place. All the time when they're born, their parents lies first. Their whole family lies. That this man, Santa Claus, is real. I mean, I feel horrible to hear my parents lie to me that, oh, Santa is real. But to think of it, a fat man coming through the chimney, giving you presents, I think he would probably break down the chimney if he's that fat. I'm not trying to make fun. I like making fun, but picture a chimney this small. A fat man, look at this, boom. Supposed to fit into that chimney. You judge. You tell me. He got to go to millions of people on Earth for how many days? Just in one day? I mean, that sounds impossible to me for a fat man to do that. I mean, a skinny man probably have a little chance, but a fat man, though? I don't mean to offend anybody, but it's a joke to me. Alright. Get back to the subject now. Consider what you are saying when you say Merry Christmas. Yes, the word Mass means death sacrifice. And to cement the fact, we will consider the definition of the inventors of the religious application of the word Mass. I am looking at page 537 of the Catholic Encyclopedia, which says in the Christian law, the supreme sacrifice is that of the Mass. It goes on to say that the supreme act of worship consists essentially in an offering of a worthy victim to God. The offering made by a proper person as a priest. The destruction of a victim. Now he says, look at the words. He says, please note carefully that the word victim in Latin is hostia, which word host is derived from. Hostia. So the true meaning, there's no other meaning for the word Mass or Christmas. On page 110 of the book, The Mass in Slow Motion, we find the words, it is only with consecration that the sacrifice of the Mass is achieved. I have represented the Mass to you more than once as a kind of ritual dance. So I want you to think of it, of the word Mass. Now to do something more, I'd like to read go a little further than read the passage. I had to buy the book itself by the Catholic Church. The Catechism of the Catholic Church. Promulgated by Pope John II. Who? Pope John II. Did you hear me? Now, let's read the law that the Catholics have. This is what they believe about Christmas. It says on page 342, we carry out this demand of the Lord by celebrating the memorial of his sacrifice. In doing so, we offer to the Father what he has himself given us, the gifts of his creation, bread and wine, which by the power of the Holy Spirit and the words of Christ have become the body and blood of Christ. Christ is thus really and mysteriously made present. So on this time, this is what happened on Christmas time. The Catholics read Matthew 26:26, where Jesus says, the bread is my body and the blood is my soul. And the blood is my blood. The wine is my blood. And guess what? They literally drink the blood, the wine, and they call it the blood of Jesus. and they eat the bread and call it the body of Jesus. Does that sound like cannibalism to you? Blood and body, you're eating that of your so-called Lord and Master. Does it sound like cannibalism to you? I'll leave you with that question. But I want to read to you the different meaning of Mass and why. What's so miraculous about this? What's so shocking? Page 344. The sacrifice of Christ and the sacrifice of the Eucharist are one single sacrifice. The victim is one and the same. And the same now offers through the ministry of the priest, who then offer himself on the cross. Only the manner of offering is different. The manner of offering is different. But watch this. And since in the divine sacrifice, which is celebrated in the Mass, the same Christ who offers himself once in a bloody manner on the altar of the cross is contained and offered in an unbloody manner. This sacrifice is truly propitiatory. I want you to be listening to this. Look at these words that I'm about to read from their catechism. And I want you to judge for yourself, because this video is not meant to force people to see what I'm saying. I just want you to open your mind. Use your mind and your conscience, common sense, and check what this means. The Mass is at the same time and inseparable. The sacrificial memorial in which the sacrifice of the cross is perpetuated, and the sacred banquet of the communion with the Lord's body and blood. But the celebration of the Eucharistic sacrifice is wholly directed toward the intimate union of the faithful with Christ's true communion. To receive communion is to receive Christ himself, who has offered himself for us. Who has offered himself for us. Also on page 353, the Eucharist commits us to pour, to receive in truth the blood and body of Christ. Given up for us, we recognize Christ in the poorest, his brethren. And look what it says right here. You have tasted the blood of the Lord. You have tasted the blood of the Lord. That sounds cannibal-like. Taste the blood of the Lord. Yet you do not recognize your brother. You dishonor this table. When you do not judge worthy of sharing your food, someone judged worthy to take part in this meal. God freed you from all your sins and invited you here, but you have not become more merciful. I want you to judge for yourself. Does that sound cannibal-like to you? The blood and the bread is the body of Jesus and the blood of Jesus. The wine is the blood. And they literally believe that this wine and this bread literally turns into the blood and the body of Jesus. That's what they say in the catechism. No, not my words. I want you to feel free to know that this is not my words, what I'm saying. So, since I explained to you the true meaning of Christmas, I would like to jump into the real subject of today. The real subject is to take your modern celebrations in the United States, or probably in the European countries also, or all over the place, all over the world. But I would like to do something different. I would like to combine all these celebrations to show you that these were ancient paganism. It's going to be from the Wheel of the Year. What is the Wheel of the Year? What is it? The Wheel of the Year celebrates the changing season of the year and the continuous cycle of life itself. Birth, death, and rebirth. In design, the wheel has 8 spokes, designating the 8 Sabbaths that represent the solstices, the equinoxes, and in some traditions, the cross quarters. The 8 spokes wheel is thought by many to be a Celtic symbol. However, it appeared in Greek symbolism as early as 600 BC. That's a quick definition of the word, what the wheel of the year is. Now, we go to this article. It was posted on December 16th, 2015. Not long ago. When was it posted? December 16th, 2015. And the name of the article is The Christmas / Saturnalia / Yule / Winter Solstice Connection. And this is a very shocking essay. So I want you to pay attention to what I'm saying. And guess what? It's by Kevin Annett. Not my words. Kevin Annett. Since I read to you what Christmas is from Pastor David J. Mayer, I would like to do you another favor. Let me read to you what the wheel of the year is and combine it with Christmas. So now that we know why December 25th was selected to be the date of the birthday celebration for Jesus, due to the already present celebrations of Mithra's birthday during the time, it then becomes appropriate to ask, why December 25th? Why is December 25th the day when Jesus is supposed to be born? You know, Jesus was not born on December 25th. I'm going to get to that point after this. He was not born on December 25th. But the answer has to do with the sun. Throughout the year, the sun moves throughout a cycle within what we call the wheel of the year, which is divided into 4 sections by a cross. 4 main sections and 4 minor sections. It looks like a cross, but it has an X on it. The cross out, X out the cross. That's what it looks like. And the wheel is composed of 12 houses of the zodiac. And the ancients depicted the sun as a man who grew older as the season changed and the circle and the wheel turned. He was a baby during the end of winter when he was born. So he's like, the sun is like a man. Notice what they call Jesus? The Son of Man. What is this? The Son Man. The Son is a man, bringing light back to the world and saving it from darkness. He was seen as a fully grown man in June during the summer solstice, and from this point on the sun begins to age until the point of old age during the start of winter months when he died. Again, before being reborn. So it's like rebirth, born, rebirth, death. It goes in that cycle again, again, and again. And you can see it. I don't know if you can see this article right here, but watch. Life, death, rebirth. I'm just giving you what it says. These are not my words, okay? These are not going to be my words, but these are the words of these people. Alright. The story of Jesus is that he died on the cross, and that he died for 3 days in the tomb before being resurrected, and celebration that was later celebrated as Easter. This was a time when the light of the sun overtakes the dark, and thus days become longer than nights. As the sun moves throughout the cycle, it can be seen sinking in the northern hemisphere until its death. Until its death on December 21st, which is the winter solstice. During this time, the sun perceptually stops moving as it lowers into the southern parts of the northern hemisphere, and it dies in the vicinity of the Southern Crooks constellation. It sounds like crooks. Crooks. The sun then rests in this position for 3 days on the horizon of the sun. Surpassing the 3 days, the sun begins to move north by a few degrees and is thus reborn on December 25th. So when it was reborn, December 25th. When they see Christ is born, December 25th. Similarly again. Son of God, son of man, son of man. Same thing. December 25th, December 25th. Same thing. It can be then said that this SON/SUN dies on the cross, CROSS/Southern Crooks constellation, and is dead for 3 days in the tomb/earth. Both are from the earth. And is then resurrected or reborn on December 25th. It sounds so similar. I'm not saying this, but look at this. It goes way more deeper than this. The story of Jesus continues that he was born of a virgin in Bethlehem with a star that signified his birth. And his birth was attended by many, including 3 wise men who followed that star to the birth of a new baby. Remember that. 3 wise men did what? Followed to his birth. Jesus Christ's birth. Now look at the story. When the Son is born/resurrected. Listen to the words. Born/resurrected. On December 25th, it resides in the constellation Virgo, the Virgin. What it sounds like? Virgo, the Virgin, or /Mary, the Virgin. Just listen to the words. The anthropomorphized image of the constellation is a virgin holding a sheet of bread, or wheat. And this is therefore relates to the bread. The reason bread is important here is that because Bethlehem is a supposed location of Jesus' birth, translated to the zodiacal house of bread. This bread also refers to the bread consumed at the Last Supper. You know when Jesus was on the cross and after he, according to the Bible, not what I believe in, but after he was on the cross, after 3 days and 3 nights, he resurrected. And he came, and so-called resurrected. And he came to, I believe 10 of his disciples was there. Came up into the upper room and had supper with them. But when these 10 disciples saw Jesus, they were like this. Hold up, this man already died. How is he alive now? They got scared, they're frightened. So Jesus said, take my hands and my feet, for the spirit has no flesh and bones as you see me have. Can a flesh, you see this? Can this right here, flesh and bones, be spirit? The answer is no. So he's showing you that give me boarfish, give me honeycomb. And he took it and he ate. To prove what? That he's not a spirit. And he said before that, Shalom Alaikum, same as Assalamu Alaikum, which means peace be unto you. So when he said that, his disciples were terrified and thought he was a spirit. So he proved all the situation that he's not a spirit. So the bread that he consumed on the Last Supper, that's the situation. That's what I'm trying to explain, the Last Supper to you. Now, I didn't mean to get off the subject right there, but I'm trying to explain this bread. Boiled fish and honeycomb. Right. The star signifying his birth is Sirius. The same man Jesus, same as Sirius, according to pagan traditions. And the 3 wise men at Jesus' time, and the 3 stars of Orion's belt, the same thing with Sirius. On December 25th, these 3 stars of Orion's belt align to follow Sirius to the birth of the sun. Follow Sirius to the birth of the sun. Therefore, it can be said, SUN/SON was born on December 25th of the Virgo the Virgin, or Mary the Virgin, in Bethlehem, the house of the bread, or the Virgo constellation, the same thing meaning. The 3 wise men / the 3 stars of Orion's belt, known as the 3 kings in later times, then followed a bright star Sirius to the birth of the sun/sun on that date. SUN/SON on that date. So that's shocking. Can't you see the similarity between the stories altogether? Can't you? Alright. Now, since you can agree with that, part 2 of the video. This subject is about to get deep now. Like I was saying about Jesus' birth, Jesus' mother named Mother Mary, the Virgin, and how the Virgo, the Virgin, the constellation is named the Virgin. Now look at this similarity. Astrologically, it is also relevant that the sun enters each sign of the zodiac at 30 degrees. And such a ministry Jesus begins at around what age? What age did he begin his ministry? 30. That's what age. Now, this person, Acharya S., in her book, The Christ Conspiracy, she also adds that the sun is the carpenter who builds his daily houses, or 12 2-hour divisions. She says that as the Mystios developed, it took the form of a play with a cast of characters, including 12 divisions of the sky, called the signs or constellations of the zodiac. And the symbols that typify these 12 celestial sections of the 10 degrees, each were not based on what the constellation actually looked like, but represent aspects of earthly life. So anybody dealing with the zodiac, I'm going to explain later why it's full of witchcraft. Because while I'm doing the subject, we're comparing the ancient religions, your modern religions, and Islam. I'm going to show you how when you go with Islam, Islam was the only religion in the beginning. But Satan, had a way of deceiving the people. He now, instead of making the people, keeping the Muslim people Islamic, he wants to deviate them from the path. Go to shaitan traps. So you know what he did? He started changing certain things in religion, Islam, until he formed different religions. And these different religions also had different things like witchcraft, all these other stuff, which I'm about to explain later in the video. But to show you that Islam is all the way, I want you to keep focused. So since I explained to you the similarity of the ancient pagan traditions and Jesus, now I would like to explain, when was Jesus born? Was he born on December 25th? I keep asking that question. So now, let's get the answer. According to the Bible, in Luke chapter 2 verse 8, when Jesus was born, the shepherd went out into the field. Guess what happened? If the shepherds go out in the field at mid-winter time, remember that region around there where Jesus was born is in the northern hemisphere. Northern hemisphere. And out here, we live in the northern hemisphere. So our winter and their winter is the same. So if it's cold out there, it's cold out here. So if Jesus' birth was supposed to be in midwinter time, why would the shepherds go out in the field in midwinter? It's freezing and cold. The shepherd will be a fool to go out in that time. Why? Because nothing will blossom, none of the fruits. And also the sheep will freeze from death because it gets very cold out there. So the shepherd's a fool. But we see according to Islam, Surah 19, what does it say? That when Mary's about to give birth to Jesus, she shake the date palm and date fall right through it. Does date palm is a tropical fruit or a desert plant? Does that palm tree, does it blossom in wintertime, midwinter, or midsummer? Ask you the question. Midwinter or midsummer?
Summer.
Midsummer. It can't be midwinter because out there it's freezing. So it shows that the Mary gave birth to Jesus during midsummer time, around spring or midsummer. Not midwinter. It cannot be. So it doesn't make sense for a shepherd to go out in the field because nothing is blossoming and the sheep will freeze to death. It has to be midsummer or around that time. So since I gave you the exact meaning of what Jesus born, what Christmas means, let's take you to the real subject. From Christmas, we go to the wheel of the year. And like I said, the wheel of the year is what? Throughout the year, the sun moves through a cycle within what we call the wheel of the year. And it's divided into 4 sections. This wheel is composed of 12 houses of the zodiac. And the ancients depicted the sun as a man who grows older as a season. Remember I said that? He depicted as a sun. It grows after December 25th. Like after December 25th is born. It grows, have its life, and it gets older until it becomes a man. And it dies on December 21st. And then you do the cycle again. Cycle again every single year. And believe me, the Catholics, the reason why they celebrate the Jesus' birthday at that time, the December 25th so-called birthday, is they want fresh crucifixion every single time. They have that celebration because Matthew 26:26 say, the bread is my body and the blood is my wine. The wine is my blood. So they literally think that they're making Jesus and they're eating him again. That's cannibalism. So to take Christmas and put it into the wheel of the year, I'm going to start it now. You see, this is a diagram of the wheel of the year. I'm going to explain to you what it says. The top part is divided into 4 sections, 4 main sections, and 4 minor sections. You have the Yule, the Ostara, the Mabun, the Lita, the Beltane, the Mbok, the Samhain, the Luchaneso. These are all the different components of the wheel of the year. But inside that, you have the zodiac symbols, all the zodiac, because anybody who's dealing with this is full of witchcraft. And I'm about to explain why. These are not going to be Bible words, of course, because I'm going to quote you the words who you can believe in, the pastor and your Bible scholars, your Bible tempers. But let me read it more to you. Inside of your zodiac, according to this wheel of the year, you have the cycle of life, death, and rebirth. Or it sounds like reincarnation, like the Hindus believe. And then you have death. This thing, the wheel of the year, is nothing new. It goes throughout so many societies. Many societies. I'll give you an example. In the Buddhist religion, you have something called the Bardo Todo. Or it means liberation through hearing during the intermediate state. There's a reason why I brought that book up. The Tibetan Book of the Dead. Because if you read what it says, the Bardo Todo is really also pronounced as Bardo Todo. Throw. From the Tibetan Buddhism, they call this book right here, the Tibetan Book of the Dead, as the same thing. That's the same exact thing. The Bardo Todo, which is exact same thing as the Tibetan Book of the Dead. And let me explain what that book is, so you can understand. The Tibetan text describes and is intended to guide one through the experiences that consciousness has after death. In the Bardo, the interval between death and the next rebirth. The text also includes chapters on the signs of death and rituals to undertake when death is closing. But I don't know if you can see this right now. But if you can, this small picture, I don't know if you can see this, but I may bring it up later, is the manuscript of the Bardo Todo. It's the manuscript of this Tibetan Book of the Dead. And the manuscript has the exact same shape, exact same formula as the wheel of the year. It's divided into 4 sections. So all throughout history, we have this symbol, the wheel of the year, a lot of times. But it goes very deep. So whoever has a chance, buy this book and read what it has to say. It is published by the introductory commentaries by His Holiness the Dalai Lama. This is the Tibetan Book of the Dead. Get that book. Because the manuscript of this book looks like the wheel of the year. Now, since I explained an occurrence that looks like the same thing as the wheel of the year, let's go right into the subject from Christmas into the wheel of the year. The history. You see, this author, St. Clair, Adeline St. Clair, she also explains these holidays that we have in the United States. And she goes on to explain about the wheel of the year and the similarity between the Christians' holidays and the same Wiccan Sabbaths, which I'm going to explain. This happened at a time when Constantine, Roman Emperor Constantine, his conversion to Christianity, so-called conversion, brought in a Trinity instead of a unity. You know how they believe in the Father, Son, and Holy Ghost. The Father is God, the Son is God, the Holy Ghost is God. I've said this so many times in my videos. But they're not 3 gods, but 1 God. Picture this. person, 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 but not three persons, but one. Does that make sense to you? 1 plus 1 plus 1. Does that look like this? This plus this plus this. Does that look like the same? The answer is no. But Roman Constantine, he introduced this into Christianity, because before that, that Christianity was Islam. And since his time, the introduction of these paganisms was introduced into Christianity. But the merging of Christianity and paganism is a relatively new concept. This is what she's saying. It is real and it makes sense most in the celebrations that links both Christian and Wiccan Sabbaths. The feast days of the Christian and Wiccan calendars are closely linked both in date and meaning, which gives the Christians the greatest gifts. Picture the Christian witches. A way to honor her Christian tradition in the light of a pagan practice. Now let's skip forward and say, the interaction between the pagan and Christian philosophies really began following the conversion of Emperor Constantine, like I just said. As Christianity became the official religion in the Roman Empire and of its elite, the legislation and the religious practices began to reflect this change. The establishment of Christianity as an official religion brought a need to organize and regulate its doctrine into a coherent monotheistic philosophy that contrasted quite drastically with the illicit, I forgot how to pronounce it, but reality of the pagan practices of the time. Skipping forward a little bit more. By the 4th century, it had become a common practice to reinterpret the pagan shrines and festivals from a Christian perspective. The Romans had done the same thing to the religious practices of the Celts and the Germanic tribes it had conquered. The practice of assimilation of the religion of the conquered is as old as the history of war, conquest, and submission. Now, the conversion of Europe into Christianity followed two opposing philosophies. Boniface, c. 675 to 754, that's the years, abolished the religions he encountered. So whatever religion he had, destroyed them, that he conquered. Now look at another philosophy. This philosophy is by Pope Gregory the Great. Who? Pope Gregory the Great. On 540 to 604. On the other hand, instructed whichever method was used, right? So he instructed his missionaries to sprinkle holy water and build altars containing holy relics on the site of pagan temples. Whichever method was used, it is clear most pagan religious practices were transformed in order to teach Christian message. These are not my words. She's saying that these things were changed by paganism to preach the Christian message. So, the pagan heritage is most obvious in the feasts and celebrations we both share. The 8 Wiccan Sabbaths. And what are Sabbaths? Those are the times when your witchcraft people gathered and renewed their vow with Satan by doing these celebrations, like your Halloween. Different celebrations, which I'm about to go in detail next. Now, this makes merging two faiths extremely easy for someone who wishes to practice the Christian witchcraft. Practicing Christian witchcraft does not mean you have to merge all celebrations. You can choose. So, let's explain what Yule is. What is Yule? Well, I just mentioned. Christmas. Christmas is the same date as Yule. Yule is celebrated on the winter solstice, the longest night of the year. The date for Christmas was chosen by the Roman Emperor Aurelian in the year the 3rd century to coincide with the feast of the unconquered sun. So for both these feasts, we can see a strong association with the power of the sun. Many pagan traditions were incorporated in the Christian feast, Christmas feast. Boniface introduced the same man with the philosophy that he destroyed all the religions, just destroy them if we conquer them. This man, look what he did. He introduced the Christmas tree, which was a Germanic tradition. Also, Santa Claus is an amalgamation of Saint Nicholas and the god Odin. What is the ritual practices? They burn candles throughout the night. It is a practice both pagans and Christians do. Christians still perform a midnight mass of this night, a symbol of keeping light burning in the darkness of the nights. Pagans let candles burn all night, long to give strength to the sun on the longest night of the year. That's the rituals. But this thing is so interactive. The same thing I was explaining what the Pope did and stuff. This feast, this was really ancient paganism. Anytime when we're dealing with the Roman Catholic Church, you will see a lot of ancient paganism in there. And I go one by one. So these feasts are interactive as the same thing. So now, instead of dealing with Yule now, Yule is the same thing as Christmas, but that's the Gothic feast or the Wiccan Sabbath feast, one of the Wiccan Sabbaths. Now I jump into Halloween. What does Pastor David J. Mayer have to say? You see, these are not my words I'm quoting. These are from Pastor David J. Mayer. Before I give you the meaning of his passage, Halloween and the occult, I'd like to give you a little history of him. Pastor David J. Mayer was born in 1950 in a small town of Clintonville in northern Wisconsin. Through his preteen years were normal in most senses, his teenage years were very rocky. If you would talk to him today, he would admit he did a lot of foolish things, very crazy stuff. One of the things he did was witchcraft. His family had a lot to do in history, in witchcraft history. He became involved in what type of witchcraft? Astrology, numerology, palm reading, and other forms of witchcraft. Like when I was talking about astrology, the sign of zodiac, I'm going to go in detail why later, why it's witchcraft. At the time, his future did not look too bright. But this is what it says, but God had other plans. That's all I want to read about his history because it goes more longer than that. But let me read to you the Halloween and the occult. Witchcraft, this is his story. Witchcraft is a real but misunderstood thing. I know because witchcraft goes back to the pastors, not my family side, but the pastor paternal side of my family, pastor family. For over 5 generations, to Chesterfield, Massachusetts in 1770, before 1776 when the United States became independent from Britain. So 1770, that's how long. His great-grandmother, not mine, his great-grandmother is a well-known witch in Wisconsin. In the early years of this century, Caroline was a blind witch and used her fingers to read palms and also became adept at putting the hex on people. Many spooky things, so-called spooky things, would happen in our family, their family. Dishes would slide from the shelves, lights would fall to the ground and unscrew. Filmy operations, jinns, that's what it is. Operations would appear and vanish, and this sort of thing would happen as a way of life. In one instance, my father, his father, was riding with his grandfather in a horse-drawn wagon when a filmy white apparition appeared in front of the horse, causing the horse to rear up on his hind legs like he was scared. Surrounded by electrifying fear, as Muslims, we're not supposed to be fear of this thing. But for a non-believer, of course, you're going to expect him to be fear. Electrifying fear, my grandfather, his grandfather, not mine, his grandfather, cracked the whip and wagon lurched forward and on its way, meaning it ran away from it. In one instance, I'll rewrite that. My father also watched, his father, was watched in stunned amazement when on another occasion an unhitched wagon, meaning no horse on it, loaded with hay went up a steep hill by itself. By itself. You know, according to Islam, if you read the Hadith, what's happening right now is really a jinn problem. Nothing more than that. Plain and simple, it's just a straight jinn problem. But according to hadith, jinns have the strength for the men. If whoever is not with Allah, for the men. So you can have, it makes sense. Why an unhitched wagon without a horse is going up the hill. It makes sense. But to them it won't make sense because they don't have any idea. What is this thing? Now, Halloween was a special time for me. Not me, the pastor. As I was growing up in Clintonville, Wisconsin, he, meaning the pastor, gave his heart and soul to that day called Samhain. And what is Samhain? The same time when Halloween is in the wheel of the year. Out of the 8 categories, or 4 major sections and 4 minor sections, there's something called Samhain. Right here. That's Halloween. If you can see it. Look closely. That's what it is. This thing called Samhain. Look what he has to say. I had learned that the pagan Sabbath of Samhain was a time when the barrier between the mundane and astral planes was very thin and departed spirits easily crossed over. Jinns. I also learned that the Roman Catholic Church copied and renamed all the 8 Sabbaths. The same time when all the witchcraft people gathered up and renewed their vow with Satan. Not only had Samhain become Halloween, but winter solstice became Christmas, Erbo became Candlemas, Beltane became May Day, and Lugnasad became Lammas. The vernal equinox, you know vernal equinox, was celebrated as Easter, which is always the first Sunday after the first full moon following the spring equinox. This is what he has to say. Halloween was his special time, not my special time. I hate Halloween, believe me. Halloween, I reject it because knowing that this is a witchcraft Sabbath, Wiccan Sabbath, I'll reject that. I don't have time for that. But it was a time when he felt drawn to become like his great-grandmother. Not mine, his. I wasn't interested in the silliness of the Catholic Halloween. He wanted the real magic. He wanted the real stuff, even though that's fake. The so-called Christians were cursing themselves and their children by copying the craft that their tenets forbade. I knew full well that these so-called Christians were copying what my spiritual ancestor had done for many centuries. And guess what? Look what he has to say. The powerful witches known as the Grand Droids. It sounds like android. Grand Droids. Androids. I'm just saying. Or men of the oak that lived in the ancient British Isles gathered at Stonehenge on this October 31st, Halloween's Day. These ancient witches practiced human sacrifice, hauled out pumpkins and turnips, carved faces in them, and then used candles made from human tallow to illuminate them. What does that mean? They commit human sacrifice to renew their vow with Satan. And why? And guess what happened? They illuminate the candles. They illuminate the pumpkins they carve into it. The turnips. They illuminate these things with human fat. I mean, probably fat people, they were looking more closely to. They'd be like this, oh, we should commit human sacrifice for him. Kill the fat man, not the skinny one. The fat man should have it. I'm not trying to play offensive on that, but I mean, he has a lot of fat though. So there's more fat means more jack-o'-lanterns. But the jack-o'-lanterns now, guess what they do? They're the only thing in the United States today that they're being illuminated with candles. The same thing that these ancient witches did. So, they carve faces in them, and they use candles made from human tallow to illuminate them. You know, you have a lot of crackhead Muslims. I gotta admit, a lot of crackhead Muslims. Why? They send their children to a celebration called Halloween. They don't study the history of Halloween. That's number one. But what happens after that? Do these Muslims know what they're sending their kids to? A lot of people are kidnapped today and being sacrificed to Satan, Shaitan. How would you feel if your kid, I'm talking Muslim now, if your kid or anyone left the house for trick or treat, trying to get some food from some strangers, and these strangers kidnap your kid and just slit the trunk and take all the fat from them and then light it as candles? How would you as a parent feel? Ask you the audience a question. I know you will feel bad for that. I'm not the only one. But picture, they're not just killing them. They brutally kill them. How would you feel about your child going in this poor situation when you yourself could have saved the situation by telling them, no, don't go on Halloween day. This is a scary day. That's why I'm just asking from you, my brothers and sisters. Just learn the celebrations. Just learn what you're doing before you do something. Don't just go blindfolded, or else Shaitan likes that. He can trick people. Because according to Islam, a worshipper who's strong in Islam, who doesn't have enough knowledge, can be tricked by Shaitan very easily. But a strong worshipper who has knowledge and spreads it cannot be tricked as easily as the one who doesn't have knowledge. So all I'm just saying is, learn what you're doing before you do something. Because I know you have a lot of regret if you don't do it. And guess what? These same grand droids, the same ancient witches in the British Isles, what did they do? They played games on this day, such as bobbing for apples, as they floated in a tub of October ale. The droids also practiced ritual sex, known as the Great Rite, as the fires blazed forth in the darkness of the giant stone monoliths of Stonehenge near Salisbury, England. The apple was very sacred to them. Why? Well, I don't have the apple with me right now. But if you take the apple, this is the apple right here. Don't cut it this way because you won't have the same effect. Cut it horizontally. Cut it horizontally, and look what you have. Because when cut in halfway, the core would reveal the pentacle, a five-pointed star. And the five-pointed star represents earth, wind, fire, water, and spirit. Always you hear the same elements. Earth, fire, water, air. Always. Any place you hear it. But if you only know. You know, some people ask help for Shaitan. You know what they do? This is one instance they do. Shaitan now, if in order for them to make a favor, the Shaitan get them a favor for them, the Shaitan will tell them whether if they're from the earth origin, from the fire origin, water, air, or these type of materials. And if you're from this such and such origin, you'll burn incense. Or if you're from this such origin, like the air, they put something on the bird, eagle, and it flies away, or different things. So what's the purpose of this? You see, there's nothing really big about that part. The earth, air, water, fire. But the main thing is that you committed disbelief. You're associating partners with Allah. You want help from something else other than Allah. So because of that, since you committed falsehood in believing that, oh, I'm from the fire origin, or I'm from the water origin, it committed falsehood for you to follow what it wants, then it gives you a favor from committing disbelief. So because of this, you have a lot of association partners. That's shirk, according to Islam. So because of this belief, the Shaitan gives them what they want. Because Shaitan wants to take men from Allah's way and put them into hellfire. That's what he was asking Allah for, as the gift for all his worship that he did for so long in heaven. Because when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, afterwards, when he did something very horrible, he said, I don't want to bow to Adam, when Allah said, because I'm more better than him. I'm from the fire origin. Part 3 of the video. Like I was saying about the water, fire, and such evidence about the jinn and what it does. Explaining to you that you have to commit this such a disbelief or this falsehood and I'll do something for you. That's what Shaitan wants. Because Shaitan wants to take everybody into hellfire, like I said. But now let's explain something. This 5-point star is called a pentacle. And what is a pentacle? Or pentagram? A pentagram is a 5-pointed star commonly associated with Wicca, ritual magic, Satanism, and Masonry. The pentagram has a long history and complex history as a religious symbol found in the scrawled caves of ancient Babylonia. The 5-pointed star was copied from the star-shaped pattern formed by the planets of Venus in the sky. The emblem remained popular throughout the cultures and the time periods. It was called the penta-alpha by the Greeks, who believed it had magical components. In later times, it was used by medieval Christians to symbolize the 5 rounds of Christ, and figured it in the heavily symbolic Arthurian romances. In medieval times, the pentagram was associated with the proportions of human body. Throughout the Middle Ages and the Renaissance, the pentagram was commonly used as a charm against witches and demons. It's like an amulet. You know, some people, they use the amulet, like some sheikhs, if they want to cure, with Allah's help, some people from jinn problems, they have something called an amulet that they wear. And this is total disbelief. You know why? You're relying on something like, has Quranic verses, but it has Arabic words backwards. And because of this, they're committing disbelief because they're relying that this will take away my problem instead of Allah will take away my problem. This itself is an amulet, a pentacle, that we're talking about right here. The charm against witches and against demons. It was not until the 20th century that the pentagram became associated with Satanism, probably due to misinterpretation of symbols used by ceremonial magicians. In alchemical texts, the 4 elements, flatus, ignis, aqua, terra, superseded by light or divine energy, illustrated the process of creation. And biblical motto, flat lux, let there be light. In Wiccan and pagan lore, the pentagram symbolized the 5 elements of earth. 5 elements: earth, air, water, fire, and spirit. The Wiccan emblematic pentagrams face point upward to symbolize the triumph of spirit over matter. The modern satanic pentagram is transposed point downwards to symbolize earthly gratification or triumph of the individual over dissolution. Some Wiccan initiatory grades also utilize a reverse pentacle, although for different purposes. Like I was saying, what a pentacle is. It's an amulet used in magical evocation, generally made of a parchment, paper, or metal, on which the symbol of a spirit or energy is being invoked, is being drawn. Energy is a jinn. Spirit is the same thing as a jinn, according to this topic. Because energy is equal to mc squared. I would like to deal with the jinn more detailed later. That's another video to make. But this subject is dealing with your ancient, modern, and Islam. Different religions showing Islam is all the way, and that shaitan changed it around. So this is nothing new. Now when the pastor, let's go back to the article. When the pastor was 13 years old, he began to invite the spirits of his deceased great-grandmother, his deceased, into himself. Soon he began to acquire powers and became adept an astrologer and palm reader. I also practiced numerology and was becoming a very powerful witch. You know, these type of witchcraft can go back. All magic and stuff can go back to ancient Babylon, pre-Ibrahim or pre-Abrahamic time. First time when magic came by the angels Harut and Marut, check the Quran. In Surah al-Baqarah or different areas in the Quran, you'll see it. That this is the first instance when magic was introduced in the human society. But guess what? It came by what? Angels. And the angels say that if you do this, this is a trial on you. So be careful. But they don't care about the trial. They care about what they want. Shaitan deceived them to thinking this is something good when it's not something good at all. So guess what? For Shaitan, there's something good. Because it's going to bring more people into hellfire. So guess what happened? The same pastor became 19 years old. And his first goal he had reached, become a powerful witch. Then very suddenly, the realization hit him that he was making predictions without looking at his charts. He would blurt out predictions in minutes detail, and they would come to pass. He became frightfully aware that I, meaning the pastor, become a sending station and was dispatching spirits to my predictions come true. He predicted accidents and tragedies, and suddenly he came with fear. He had fear in it. To show you that this pastor was dealt in witchcraft, and he explained what's happening at the time. How he would predict that this would happen, and it happened. But guess what? Whoever used these things, the Shaitan may give them a truth, one truth, but with that truth you have thousands of lies. So guess what happened? It's deception. What you think you're gaining, you're really losing. Now, what is Samhain? Samhain, All Saints' Day or All Souls' Day. November the 1st and 2nd, respectively, the Christian celebration dates to the 4th century. It commemorates the lives of the saints and the people who passed on. It was moved to November the 1st by Pope Gregory III to coincide with the pagan celebrations. Look what she had to say, Adeline St. Clair. This dumb supper is so dumb, that's what she's saying. It's one of the ways to acknowledge the presence of their ancestors on the night of Samhain. It is believed that on that night, the veil between the realm of the living and the realm of the dead is very thin, and that our ancestors can come back from the dead. This dumb supper consists of setting an extra place on the table. Like if they're having dinner, set another place on the table for my ancestors to come. Which is so dumb according to what she's saying. But I'll explain to you why it's dumb. Your ancestors don't have any skin anymore. No organs to digest the food. It's just bones, rotten. And you expect them to eat back food again? Don't you expect that they dip a spoon up and eat it, it should fall to the ground? How are they going to digest the fruit and stuff? You don't have any organs. So this doesn't even make sense. How can they eat the food? So that's what Samhain is. This is the second celebration of the Wheel of the Year. Samhain and Yule. Now, I'd like to go to another one. This one is kind of short. In bulk, February the 2nd is when it happened, and it's known as Candlemas, February the 2nd. And bulk celebrates the efforts of the god to woo the goddess out of her wintry sleep. For Christians, this date honors the sacred feminine person, the Virgin Mary. It is called Candlemas because it is customary to burn candles in a procession of this date. Common theme, devotion to a goddess. To who? A goddess. In bulk or Candlemas is a great day to honor the sacred feminine. It can be done in traditional ways, like lighting or burning a candle and offering flowers at her shrine. This date also coincides with a feast of the Saint Bridget, a druid whose life work was to attend to women's health, particularly in childbirth. That's the similarity between Imbolc and Candlemas in the Christian calendar and Wicked Sabbath calendar. Now we hit a very strong subject coming up. What is Ostara? Ostara is when? March 21st? I mean, today is February the 2nd. I meant February the 8th, I think. February the 8th. So because of that, we have like about probably a month left. Over a month. Now, Ostara celebrates, or commenting is rebirth. Easter is the same date. First Sunday after the full moon occurring or after the spring equinox. Ostara celebrates the coming of a spring and return of life after the dead winter. Easter celebrates the resurrection of Christ after his descent in the realm of the dead. Christians believe, can you believe this? That their Lord and Master, after he died on the cross, after 3 days and 3 nights, he descended into hell for 3 days and 3 nights. And now he's resurrected. Can you believe that? That their Lord and Master had to go to hell. Doesn't make sense. Why would something so, according to some, a cherished person and a cherished person, according to Christianity, have to go to hell? That's only for wrongdoers. But they say he paid the price. Now, Ostara celebrates, like I said, the return of life. But the ritual practice, there are so many ways of celebrating this. One way that I find links both the pagan and Christian philosophy is by blessing of elements. This is done at Easter Virgo service every year. And I find that there's no better connection between these pagan and Christian rites than this. There is the blessing of fire and of water, and the burning of incense to sanctify the altar. Flowers are all around the altar. It is really a great representation of all the wicked works with regularly. And they celebrate it by having the egg and the bunny basket. Don't you know this? When you're at school, they had the Easter eggs and then you go egg hunting and stuff. You think this was a coincidence to do egg hunting? No. What does that mean? Because like I said you should know what you celebrate. You shouldn't just celebrate something without knowing. It won't make sense. So now let me show you what's happening. The truth about Easter. This is the article. The truth about Easter and the secret worship of Anunnaki. It is from the book, J.R. Terror's book, History of Easter Hidden, Secret Origins and Mystery Religion. And the additions to these texts are made by Alexander Light. Now, look what he has to say. Easter is an annual celebration observed throughout the Christian world. However, there are absolutely no verses in the Bible. I'd like to ask my brothers and sisters who are in the audience, whoever's watching, a question. Where in the Bible does it say the word Easter? Where in the Bible does it say the word Easter eggs? Or where in the Bible does it even say the word Easter baskets? If you celebrate something, you should know, or you should find it in your book. So, I give you a 3-second wait. 1,000 more. Alright, since I gave you 3 seconds, now let me give the answer. You don't have to say anything. Just 3 seconds I gave you. Keep it in your mind. Now, however, there are absolutely no such verse in the Bible. Furthermore, the Bible doesn't even mention anything like Easter eggs, Easter baskets, Easter bunnies, or even Lent. The author includes convincing evidence that show that these very items were parts of pagan rituals of the mysterious religion of ancient Babylon. This is where I would like to connect the dots. Show you that all these religions are one, but deviated from Shaitan, from Islam. Islam is the only way, and Shaitan deviated them, forming new religions and corrupting the people. So to show you, reverse the situation now, I want to show you what's been happening. Now, do you know, I'm asking you the question, do you know where the tradition of celebrating Easter came from? Where did it originate? Question. Do you know where Easter originates? Do you?
No.
Do you think it's Christianity?
Yes.
I mean, many people say that, but that's not where it originates. You see, these are ancient pagan festivals being introduced into Christianity. Because Christianity was Islam. If you ask a Christian, ask a Jew, where did you get the word Christianity from? He said, I don't know. I said, okay, I'm going to give you the answer. Christianity came from the enemies of Christ who came in Antioch and saw the followers of Jesus Christ and called them Christians. So by the name Christians, they adopted the name and called themselves Christians. Where did they get Jews from? The people of the province of Judea, children of Judah, called themselves Judaism. So by that we get Judaism, and by that we get Christianity. But if you ask Jesus or you ask Moses, probably in time to come or on the day of judgment, inshallah, what was your religion on the day of judgment? Ask him, what was your religion? I wouldn't expect Jesus to say Christianity. I wouldn't expect Moses to say Judaism. I would expect him to say, my religion is a religion of total submission to God's will. And one word for that in Arabic is Islam. I would expect Moses to say the same thing, that my religion is a religion from peace. Peace acquired by submitting your will to Allah, God Almighty. And one word for that is Islam. But as to Moses and Jesus, they never heard the word Christianity, they never heard the word Judaism. These are all concocted terms. Now, this author exposes the hidden accounts of original Easter festivals, which was initiated several thousands of years ago, many years before the birth, death, and resurrection of Jesus. That's what his words are, not my words. That the birth, death, and resurrection of Jesus, that's what they believe in. I didn't say I believe in that Jesus died on the cross. I didn't say that. I'm saying that's what they believe. Easter and Anunnaki connections. The name Easter actually comes from Ishtar, Easter, who is worshipped as the moon goddess, the goddess of spring and fertility, and the queen of heaven. She is known by so many names in countries and cultures that she is often referred to as goddess of 1,000 names. Like what they've been doing? They've been taking this religion, this religion, this religion, this religion, and you see different names but the same thing. If you have the Satanic Bible, or different things, Satanism, they've been taking different cultures, like Mao in Japanese, some type of devil, or another devil in Coyote in the Native Americans, or this person from different cultures or religions, combine it to one and show you this is Satanism. So they practice Satanism rituals, satanic rituals by these names or different things, combining religion to show you. They believe that they could combine all the religions, but they combine in the wrong way. Islam already combined religions in a right way. But this subject can get for days, months, years to even explain. Because this subject is dealing with the history of man from the beginning of time to the end of time. So what about Easter? Easter is an English word, and the Anglo-Saxon word is astray. And the Babylonian word is Ishtar. And the Hebrew word is Ashtaroth. And the Greek word is Astarte. Ashtaroth, Astarte, Ishtar, Astray, and Easter were the same thing. Astarte is the Phoenician and Greek fertility goddess. Ashtaroth is the Hebrew name for the Canaanite fertility goddess. Ishtar is the Babylonian name for the fertility goddess. Astray is the Anglo-Saxon name for the fertility goddess. All these are the same names for one goddess. Now the Sumerian name for Ishtar, the same goddess, is Indiana, and was definitely the most important one. This is the important one. And Anna was the granddaughter of Enlil, who in turn was Anu's son. Anu was the highest ranking Anunnaki, and his name was translated as Great Sky Father. Anu was reversed as God of heavens, and he was central figure of mankind's first religion. Well, first messed up religion. So what are the Babylonian connection with the Bible. John chapter 8 verse 44. 2 Corinthians chapter 11 verse 14. First Peter chapter 5 verse 8. Ishtar, the Babylonian goddess, is one for whom Easter is named. Ishtar is but another name for Semiramis, the wife of Nimrod. This post-flood festival was part of a false religion mystery Babylon, and was started by Nimrod and his wife, also known as Ishtar. They not only instituted the building of the Tower of Babel, they also established themselves as God and goddesses to be worshipped by the people of Babylon. They are the co-founders of all the counterfeit religions that have ever existed. So listen to this. What's so miraculous? What's so strange about that? Babylon was the first place where magic was introduced, according to the Quran. And this was a place where deception and shaitan got very high now. And I'll explain why now. Nimrod was worshipped as a sun god. He was worshipped in many cultures as Samas, Atis, Uti, Merodach, Marduk, Ninus. I'm just listening to you. Bel, Baal, like how they have a Passion of Bel, Passion of Jesus, Passion of Bel, same thing. Well, same events kind of thing. Moloch, Tammuz, the list goes virtually endless. That's what they're saying. He was also known as the Muzi by the Sumerians and as Ra by the Egyptians. You know how the Ra is the female character of Horus? And Horus, whoever doesn't know Horus, the all-seeing eye on the $1 bill is Horus. That's dealing with Illuminati now. Connections. I'm about to deal with some Illuminati connections with Easter, but these are not my words though. These are the words of these people who publish these articles, and I'm going to give them to you. So you can know what you're really celebrating. Before you celebrate something, you should know what you're doing. Millions of people are unknowingly worshiping and praying to this pagan goddess today. What is her name, present day? What is her present day name? The Babylonians celebrated the day of Ishtar as Easter, as the return of the goddess of spring, the rebirth of reincarnation of nature, and the goddess of nature. Babylonian legend says that each year a huge egg would fall from heaven and land in the area around the Euphrates River. The Pope's ceremonial clothes, listen to this, now I'm talking about the Pope. Ceremonial clothes copied those worn by the ancient priests of Dagon. And it's not a coincidence, they do it on purpose. According to the Sumerian tablets, when an Anunnaki god Enki first arrived on Earth, he landed with his spaceship on water. He later emerged from water wearing scaly fish suit. What, astronaut suit? That's what they're saying. They say it with a question mark. Scaly fish suit / astronaut suit. Thousands of years later, the ceremony of the fish god was still celebrated in Arcadia, Assyria, and Babylon by the priests of Dagon. In her yearly rebirth, Ishtar would break out of this egg, and if anybody finds that egg, she would bestow a very special blessing. Does this explain the origin of our modern day tradition, Easter eggs, baskets, or Easter egg hunts? Fact checked. Look at this. Easter dark side. Easter corrupted side. This is the alert sign. Be alerted. Easter, or more properly, Ishtar, complete with symbolic eggs and rabbits. Did you hear me? Ishtar, complete with symbolic eggs and rabbits, was in fact a pagan Babylonian and Assyrian deity, signifying fertility and sexuality, later critically adopted by Romans and finally introduced into Christianity by Emperor Constantine. So who introduced it? This was not in Christianity. This was introduced into Christianity because Christianity was Islam. And while it's being introduced, that's how we get Easter. Can you believe that? By ancient paganism. Other pagan rites that were connected with this celebration and which are all part of our modern Easter tradition, well, their modern Easter tradition, are Easter offerings to Queen of Heaven, consisting of freshly cut flowers, hot buns, decorated with crosses and star-shaped cakes, new clothes to celebrate this festival. The pagan priests wore new clothes or robes, and the Vestal virgins wore new white dresses or robes and bonnets on their heads, and the sunrise services to symbolically hasten the year's arrival of Ishtar eggs from heaven, the reincarnation of the spring goddess. The Vatican, now listen to this, the Vatican. I don't know if you can pick all this up because there's a lot of information being thrown at you so quickly. So keep alert on these things. The Vatican is secretly perpetuating the ancient pagan rituals and worship of their ancient gods, the aka, also known as Anunnaki, the shadow religion of the world's elite, is Satanism. And all position of power are occupied by the Satanists. You know how I was talking about numerology? Numbers have a symbolic meaning in witchcraft. And now look at this. You know how I was saying that in America, in the past, I don't know about future time, but in the past, you will never see a 13th floor. In none of the hotels that you stay at, never a 13th floor. It will go from 12th floor, past the 13th, to the 14th floor. Take out literally the 13th floor. We don't have a 13th floor. Forget that. Because the number 13 is a very unlucky number according to them. Friday the 13th is a very unlucky day according to Christians. Now look at this. The satanic connection to Easter. Easter has its origins in the world of the occult. The occult/satanic calendar is comprised of 4 periods of 13 weeks each. Occultists believe that numbers contain inherent powers, and many base their lives on numerology. Numerology is what? Is also a key component of astrology. Another system occultists follow closely. Thus, the occult calendar is divided into 4 parts, but these 4 parts has each 13 weeks. Note that 13 times 4 is 52 weeks, same as our year in the Gregorian calendar. In the occult system, the number 6 equal man. The number 7 equal divine perfection or God's lowercase g. And the number 13 is the rebellion against authority and depravity. What I mean, just now when I said number 7, divine perfection or lowercase g, same thing happened with Jesus. John chapter 1 verse 1, what did it say? In the beginning was the Word was God, and in the beginning was the Word. The Word was with God, and the Word was God. That G right there is tontios. The Word was God. Was tontios, lowercase g, meaning divine perfection in man. Meaning he's a very good man. That's an example of what I mean by divine perfection. But he's not God. I don't know if it means here or God here, but I mean out there it's not God. But look, the number 13 represents the states of man's having reached a divine perfection. Self-achieved perfection and illumination. Sound like Illuminati? According to 8th century scholar Saint Betty, also known as Venerable Betty or Betty the Venerable. The name Easter is derived from the Scandinavian Ostra, and the Teutonic name Ostern or Astray, both of whom were goddess of mythology and were identified as a spring and fertility goddess. Festivals of these goddesses were celebrated on the first day of the vernal equinox. Important part of these pagan celebrations included the rabbit, red eggs, and gifts, all of which represented fertility. Easter is steeped in the mysteries of ancient Babylon, an evil and idolatrous system. And it's telling me to go to the article, The Secret Worship of the Illuminati, the Statue of Liberty is Goddess Ishtar / Indiana. I have the article which I might read to you after that. But the satanic ritual of sacrificing children connected with Easter. Every year, every single year, the priest of Ishtar would impregnate young virgins. The priest would impregnate young virgins on an altar dedicated to herself and her husband. The children were born on Christmas, not a coincidence. Was born on Christmas Day for a reason. And the next year, they were sacrificed in Easter Sunday at sunrise service. The priest would take Ishtar eggs and dye them in blood of the sacrificed children. Inanna's husband was none other than the infamous god Moloch, like I mentioned earlier, or Melech, to whom the children were and still are sacrificed in satanic rituals. The Satanism were the religious worship of Anunnaki, and the human and animal sacrifices are part of rituals. If you have the heart to believing this, there's an excerpt right here on the Encyclopedia of Judaica, which identifies Ishtar / Indiana and her husband as the gods to whom children were sacrificed. In the time being, I don't have enough time. I will not read that to you. But they gave me a picture right here where it says that the following image was secretly taken during a satanic ritual in which a human body or a child, a little baby, was burned in front of a wooden owl statue dedicated to the Ishtar / Indiana / Moloch at Bohemian Grove. So this is the real origin of Easter. Now, the article, The Secret Worship of the Illuminati and the Statue of Liberty is Anunnaki Goddess Indiana. The Statue of Liberty become the most cherished symbol in the United States. Statue symbolizing freedom, liberty. What we were not taught in school were truly significant facts regarding the statue. Those pertinent facts that remain largely unknown revolve around the true history of the statue's inception, as well as the meaning and significance behind the statue. French sculptor Frederick Bartholdi designed the Statue of Liberty. Bartholdi did not originate the concept of the statue. The idea for creating the Statue of Liberty and of Freedom was first proposed by another Frenchman by the name Edward Laboille. I don't know if I pronounced it correct because it was a Laboille's idea and determination during the American Civil War that carried the idea from a simple notion to an actual project. But who was Laboille? He was a French Freemason. People, you know, the Freemasonry people proposed the idea of a giant statue replicating goddess that the Masonic movement idolized. Laboille proceeded to raise the financial support and commission Bartholdi to provide the sculpture of this goddess of illumination, or it sounds like Illuminati from ancient times. What was this deity? It was the goddess known by various names. The same goddess I mentioned. Laboille and his French, and his, of course, fellow Freemason sculptor, Bartholdi, referred to as Libertas, or Liberty. But she was also an early adoption by the Romans of the Babylonian goddess Ishtar. We will need to follow the research on the goddess connections to fully understand this statue's meaning. Libertas, Roman goddess Libertas, was the name of the ancient Roman goddess adopted by the Romans. Perhaps as early as the 5th century BC, and certainly by the 14th century BC, she was referred to as the goddess of personal freedom and liberty. In fact, liberty meant freedom, so liberty means freedom. There's two names describe one concept we call freedom. Liberty equal freedom, and freedom equal liberty, like I just said. This goddess was the goddess of freedom because she promoted the ideals for personal freedom to do anything that they felt like. She was called the matron goddess of prostitution because she promoted sexual freedom. Indeed, she had invented the concept. Slaves considered her the goddess in winning hopes for their freedom. Also during the time when immigrants would come to America, during the time of America, you have something called the Ellis Island, and you have, I can't remember how you pronounce it, but Angel's Island. One from California, one I believe around more up north. This Statue of Liberty was supposed to specify liberty to them, according to one research I was reading. Don't take that 100%, but that's what I was reading somewhere. Now, many women who gained freedom later turned to prostitution to survive, and thereby retained Libertas as their goddess, especially if they became priestess in Libertas cult. Libertas was also a goddess of war. In order to fight for freedom, she was also referred to at times as the goddess of freedom. Victory, because freedom must have victory in order to survive. The goddess was also known as the goddess of immigrants, like I just said. The whole idea of immigration connoted the idea of freedom. Her popularity was also unique because of her unique doctrine of hearing personal prayers. This unique doctrine was something that most of the pagan deity doctrines were not disposed towards. I'm just reading it to you what they have to say about her. Look at this. Look at this. You see this image right here? Almost look the same, right? What about this one? Doesn't that look almost the same? This is the Freemasonry one, right here. This is the Statue of Liberty, and this is a statue that the Freemasonry people look up to. Look at this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. This is 7 spikes, and this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 spikes. Exactly copies statue. This Statue of Liberty is nothing new. It's nothing new. It's not something that they just developed just like that in United States history by a French person. This had an agenda behind it. From the ancient goddesses, or so-called names of the gods. This. We know that this goddess exists because of our records left behind to us. We have, this is what they're saying, the ancient writings of Cicero, who writes of this goddess and her temple on the Aventine Way in Rome. She was depicted on some Roman coins as wearing a freedom cap and having a wreath, along with a spear, or sometimes a sword. Such coins, images, were not only depictions. Sometimes she was well-robed, other times seductively unclothed in both sculptures and paintings. We know of Libertas being referred to as mother of harlots. Harlots are not something good. By the famous Roman historian Cicero writing. Cicero indicates that she was also a very early goddess of the Greeks, even before early Roman civilization developed. Upon this further investigation, we find from the Greeks had acquired knowledge of this. Being from previous emperors in the Middle East and Egypt, this goddess was called Astoret in Hebrew, and in the Old Testament Greek version, the Septuagint, the same. Astarte. Astoret becomes translated into Greek Astarte, which became the early Greek name for the goddess until it was later changed to Aphrodite. Nothing new. They've been changing the names of statue, but keeping the statue. Like the statue of Mary was also another name for Isis, the Egyptian goddess. Not ISIS as a terrorist group, but the Egyptian goddess. Just rename the whole figure. The Hebrew term Astoret was itself a transliteration from the Babylonian dialect Akkadian, term of Ishtar. Ishtar, in the most ancient of times, was also referred to by the Sumerian dialect as Indiana or Niniana, meaning the Queen of Heaven or Lady of Heaven. In Canaan, this deity was called Astoret. The Hittites called her Shashka. The Phoenicians on Cyprus initially called her Astarte. Same thing as the Greeks. Isis was a name given to by the Egyptians. Same thing as what they changed the statue of Mary. Look, can you see our resemblance? Can't you see how they changed the names for the same statue? This is how the goddess became introduced into earliest Greeks. We know this transformation in part due to written texts found by archaeologists, plus from studying the character traits and description. For instances, all these deities were actually just one goddess. All these deities, goddess. And she was associated with the planet Venus. And what's so shocking about Venus? Part 4 of the video. I apologize for this subject being extremely long, but if you have a chance, please watch these videos repetitively so you can understand it one by one. This subject can take for many weeks, probably months or even years, because this is dealing with the history of mankind, what was happening. But like I was saying, what's so miraculous of planet Venus associated with these goddesses? Like I was saying about the pentagram, this is how it connects. The pentagram is a 5-pointed star associated with Wicca, ritual magic, Satanism, and even it can go found to ancient Babylonia. This 5-pointed star was copied from the star-shaped pattern formed by travels of planet Venus. Same shape as the planet Venus. Don't you see that? Pentacle, Venus, same thing attributed to the goddess who is also known as one and the same thing. Now, where was I? Planet Venus. For instance, all these deities were actually just one goddess, and she was associated with planet Venus. Most had phonetic language roots in the transliterating aspects of name Ishtar, and this remained so until the Greeks changed the name Aphrodite. Later the Romans referred to her as in Latin, initially as Libertas, and later as Venus, where they accepted more than just the liberty doctrine, which is very sick. Very sick. So, which means mankind has the freedom to do anything they want. Anything, even the worst things that you can think of. Ishtar was introduced to the Greeks as Astarte. Through the Phoenicians, we can see that the lineage of the Greek and Roman goddess of the planet Venus goes all the way to ancient Babylon of around 3000 BC. Same time when the magic was introduced to Babylon by angels Harut and Marut, saying that this is a test from you. That if you go with this thing, you can be tried. This is a trial for you. And guess what? They don't care. They want to do whatever they want. So guess what happened? They go into hell for it. And apparently, the Greeks and later the Romans chose to initially honor only one portion of Ishtar's character and doctrines that appeal to them. In those very early years, before established empires, Ishtar's doctrine of personal freedom was really impressed by the Greeks and the Romans. They therefore could choose to worship just that aspect of her character. As time passed and the succeeding generation of Greeks found the other Ishtar doctrines to be appealing and incorporated her into their pantheon of deities. As Astarte or Aphrodite, later still the Romans did the same and referred to her as Venus. It seemed that the allure of Ishtar was her doctrine of holy sex, or salvation by holy sexual relations with temple priestess or priest, as a means of purification and holiness. Can you believe this, how they purified themselves? By going through these horrific things, disgusting things. Can you believe the society at that time? It's shocking. Of course, this entailed paying the priestess or the priest, and thus it was officially, listen to these words, it was officially sanctioned and therefore holy prostitution. So guess what happened? This term prostitution, Ishtar introduced the whole concept to the human race first. That's where it first started, according to this report. This is why she was referred to as the mother of harlots. Harlots had been deemed the social outcasts, so she was also referred to as the mother of exiles. This was later equated with the idea of immigration. Naturally, then, Ishtar, aka also known as Libertas, was known as the mother of harlots, the mother of exiles, and the mother of immigrants through not only Babylon and Babylonia, but also Assyria, Egypt, Greece, and Rome. Assyria, Egypt, Greece, and Rome. What was Ishtar's legacy in Babylon? She was the chief goddess of Babylon and all of the Babylonia. There was no other goddess more honored than her. She was even equated to have nearly the same power as the chief goddess of Babylon, the sun god Utu, also known as Shamash. In later years, the chief male deities would flip-flop in popularity. The most famous and prominent during the times of Israel's nationhood was Baal. Baal was also called Marduk, or Marduk, or Morodech, and Bel. Baal was identified with the planet Mars and was called the god of war. His name meant Lord of Air. For his superior powers and supremacy of the air, it was claimed that he was as well as Ishtar and all of the other deities flew among and from the stars in the heaven. Ishtar was a multifaceted deity. She was first the foremost endeared to the hearts and minds of the Babylonians because of primary dedication to freedom and liberty. She was also considered the mother of prostitution and harlotry, and it was considered holy. Can you believe that? Prostitution committed holy? Shaitan just deceived these people full swing. Shaitan been boxing their heads back and forth, and these people can't even see. You know why? When you go with Islam, you find peace. But anytime you go with Shaitan, always something dealing with horrific or disgusting terms. Indecency. Why Ishtar introduced the concept of removal of sins? By the practice of sinner engaging in the holy rite of sexual relations with the priestess or priest. This action would involve payment of money to the priestess or priest as part of the cleansing process. It was an offering of thanksgiving for the purification. This is the first instance of prostitution in human history. Repeated, repeated, repeated. Ishtar was also known as the goddess of war because she fights for freedom and liberty. She was also known as the goddess of victory because there is no freedom without victory. She was also known as the goddess of love because of her sexual and her promotion of all types of sexual perversions in the name of freedom. Her motto was, if it feels good, do it. Didn't we hear that same idea as a theme song in 1960s? She was also a goddess of the planet Venus. She was a goddess who flew among the stars, and so therefore was called the Queen of Heaven or Lady of Heaven. You mean the Queen of Hell? In joke. She is really devilish. Now Sitchin. Sitchin is one of the only handful of scholars who have been able to learn and translate the cuneiform tablet writings of Sumerian Babylonians. He has written numerous books detailing various aspects of culture and writing of summer. In his book, Divine Encounters, he describes a significant role that Ishtar held for the Sumerian. On page 174 to 176, he describes the annual ritual in which the king of summer must come to a special chamber temple for Ishtar to engage in sexual relations with her for one night of passion. If during the night she is pleased, she kills him, and a new candidate is selected to go the same process. He must perform satisfactorily in order to be the king of that place. or to rule for one more year. If the king or candidate found acceptance, he would appear the following morning to the expectant crowds outside the temple palace to show that he had gained favor from the goddess to rule for one more year. Such acceptance also meant that the nation would have a good year of agricultural harvest. Sitchin also notes that the biblical references to the daughters of Babylon always refer to the Ishtar of Babylon. She was the mother of harlots and also the daughter of Babylon. This seems like a dichotomy of sorts, but Ishtar, I'm going to break down this in later videos, but this right now I'm trying to combine a lot of subjects right now. So bear patience with me. This seems like a dichotomy of sorts, but Ishtar was the daughter of the original founding god of Babylon, known as Anu, who was the ruler of the planet Nibiru. Nibiru was an additional planet in our solar system that circled the Earth, made a rotation around the Earth for 3,600 years, according to the royal records of Babylon. Sitchin has been roundly ridiculed by scientists for proposing that this notion of Nibiru could actually exist. However, on June 30th, 1999, a scientist, David Stevenson, from California Institute of Technology, published a paper stating that the stellar planets, which is called Nibiru, would be called, is certainly a theoretical possibility and should not be dismissed. So it's showing that this should be kept still. In the CNN news story, the text mentioned by Stevenson is not only, and that others have theorized that there may be other planets roaming in stellar space that came from our solar system. Now, skipping this part, now this ritual between Ishtar and the king, or the king candidate, is what the biblical prophecies are referring to. What it talks about, harlots having relations with the kings of the earth. And we can find this type of thing in Revelation chapter 17 verse 1 to 2, 4 to 5, and also chapter 18 verse 3 to 9, and chapter 19 verse 2. See also Isaiah chapter 47 verse 1 to 15, and Jeremiah chapter 51 verse 7. All of that. It also means that the relationship is two-way street. Ishtar gives to the king the necessities to maintain authority and control. In return, the king, of course, swears allegiance to Ishtar and provides sacrifices for her. Revelation provides a symbolic similarity between the ancient historical aspects and future of relationships between a future Babylon and the rest of nations. Superpower Babylon acts just like an Ishtar and engages in prostitution with the rest of nations. The context is all with regard to money and materialism. Revelation chapter 18 verse 1 to 24. Now skipping this, let's show the connection of Ishtar and the Statue of Liberty. The Statue of Liberty was a Masonic concept conceived from within Freemasonry. The chief promoter and fundraiser for the project was Edward LaBoye, like I just mentioned, and he collaborated with the sculptor Frederick Bartholdi to develop a statue of a Masonic enlightenment. The statue was developed within the highest doctrines of Freemasonry, the highest. This enlightenment took its form in various symbols found in the sculpture itself. Now, you see the 7 spikes on the crown? This symbol was to represent the enlightenment of the Babylonian sun god, Shamash or Utu. This idea was that this sun god's occultic illumination, it sounds like Illuminati, could be focused by each of the 7 spikes of the crown. That each spike flash an occultic enlightenment, each of the 7 spikes, to the 7 largest landmass of the world, the continents, known as Horus. In other words, these spikes would flash occultic enlightenment to the continent on planet Earth, and each of the 7 spikes would represent of one of the 7 largest landmasses. A common misconception is that the tablet represents the 10 Commandments. It does not represent that given by Moses, from God to Moses. This is not true. The tablets are engraved only with Roman numerals standing for July the 4th, 1776. Number 3, the robe. In the original planning of the Statue of Liberty was designed in initial stages to be color. She was wearing the royal robes of scarlet and purple. It became obvious that for reasons of monetary purposes, the statue must be made from copper. The use of copper precluded the use of any color scheme. Thus, the original plans for scarlet and the purple robes were abandoned. The torch. This item was originally designed to be a golden cup filled with wine of freedom. This golden cup remained in a plan and was actually made. It explains in the article what the cup really means, but I don't have time right now. Number 5. Yeah, that would be the last. That would be the last number. Number 5. Point number 5. Mother of Exiles is a key term in poem by Emma Lazarus. In her famous poem about the statue, Lazarus refers to the woman as the mother of exiles. The poem has forever linked the statue to the immigrants from around the world. The statue is a patron saint of immigrants everywhere. Oddly enough, the Babylonian goddess Ishtar was also the patron goddess of immigrants in Babylon, because as a goddess of personal freedom, she brought hope to the immigrants, seeking to make a better life for themselves in Babylon. Excuse me. Little burp. So, for this mother of exiles, in fact, if we try to transliterate the English term mother of exiles into Greek, mother as a word has a similar phonetic sound, doing the same with exiles. From English into Koine Greek. Koine Greek listener would link it to similar Greek that connoted deep inhalation of air and heavy breathing. This is tied to the Greek word, I don't know how to pronounce that, but iphitumia, which in English is normally translated as lust. But literally the meaning of Koine Greek meant literally heavy breathing and was connoted with desire. Now this terminology is then linked with the word porneo, from the word pornography. Porneo, lust, fulfillment by sexual relations, and engagement for money, which again was the main claim to fame for Ishtar, holy sexual prostitution. I know it's a long subject, but finally, that was the main strong point for the Wheel of the Year. Ostara is this what I mentioned, Easter. And this is what Easter really means. This is one of the celebrations of the Wheel of the Year. For the Wiccan Sabbath, and the Wiccan Sabbath, a Sabbath is what the witchcraft people gather up and make a vow with Satan. Now, what is Beltane? May 1st and May Day. May Day, Beltane is the same thing, May 1st, but two different names for two different things. I'll explain what it means. May Day is a festival that has been somewhat lost. It was used to feature young girls walking in procession behind the statue of the Virgin Mary. It seemed to indicate that these girls were of age to get married. Beltane is a fertility festival with the maypole dance and obvious symbol of the Great Rite. And it explains the ritual practice. A way to commemorate fertility is through the symbolic Great Rite, representing the copulation of the god and the goddess to bring life to the earth, back to the earth. You can use any of the two items that represent feminine receptivity and male virginity and unite them into a state of completeness. It is a day to be a little frivolous and let your hair down. Go out to the town with a significant other, or go on the prowl for that special someone. Shaitan is what it means. It's shaitanic. So just now, the study that I did with you, I just read 1, 2, 3. Well, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 celebrations of the Wheel of the Year. Now, what is Litta? Litta is the June 21st. St. John the Baptist Day is June 24th, but it's same thing they're commemorating. These feasts commemorate the summer solstice, the longest day of the year, at the beginning of the harvest festival season. The link between the two feasts is thin, but the importance of St. John's Day in many parts of the world is a testimony to the importance of this day. It is a time where the solar energy is at its highest. It is a time to commemorate the strength and soaking up this great gift. A common practice is lighting bonfires. It brings back the theme of energy and strength that this day is all about. Now the seventh celebration, Lammas, August the 1st. Loaf Mass, August the 1st. Loaf Mass is not celebrated anymore in regular church calendar. It dates back to the early church when it was common to make an offering of both of the first fruits of the harvest as a sign of thanksgiving. During the church service, well, particularly on August 1st, people brought bread that was baked with the new wheat to be blessed. During the church service, lammas celebrate the wheat's harvest and the blessing of livestock. Common theme, giving thanks to the wheat harvest. For the wheat harvest. Ritual practice, baking and sharing bread is a ritual both pagans and Christians can relate to. It is especially relevant to Christians as a commemoration of the Eucharist, like I mentioned in the Catechism of the Catholic Church. Now, the last one. Mabon, September 21st, and Thanksgiving. Variable date, the same date as the Canadian Thanksgiving, coincides more closely with the date of Mabon. The common theme is giving thanks again for harvest. There's no greater ritual than preparing a meal with the fruits of harvest and giving thanks for all our blessings. That is communing with nature and the divine in the most fundamental human way. This is what they had to say. Adeline St. Clair. I hope that this quick turn of the wheel of the year, this is what she's saying, has given you a new look at the celebration of pagan and Christian share. If you are looking towards the practice of Christian witchcraft, that's what she's saying. So in short again, the Wheel of the Year celebrates the changing seasons of the year and the continuous cycle of life, birth, death, rebirth, and all this other stuff. And represent the solstices and the equinox, the cross quarters. So I know the subject is very long. If you can bear patience, it's about to be done. You see, like I was talking about Christmas, I would like to end with Christmas to show you something new. Why do you celebrate Christmas? I'm talking about non-Muslims. Do you honestly believe that Christmas celebrates the day of Jesus Christ's birth? Or is it because tradition? Let's examine. December 25th, whose tradition when Jesus was born. Neither the Bible nor any known writing claims to record his birth date. All available information supports, then why do we observe December 25th? This date was first officially recognized on Roman calendars about 336 AD, sanctioned by Pope Julius in 350 AD, having been discerned, decreed by Pope Sylvester in 320 AD, to coincide with the... Since I began with Christmas, I would like to end with Christmas. Why do you celebrate Christmas? Do you believe Christmas celebrates the birthday of Jesus? Or is it because of your tradition you celebrate it? Because remember, the Bible says that when you say a word like Merry Christmas, you should know what you're saying. Matthew chapter 12, verse 36 to 37. So when was Jesus born? Was it December 25th? Or what is it midsummer? It obviously was not midwinter. It has to be midsummer. So, this date was first officially recognized on Roman calendar about 336 AD and sanctioned by Pope Julius in 350 AD, having been decreed by Pope Sylvester in 320 AD to coincide with the sun god feast. Indeed, Rome was called Saturnia, and the sun god feast was called Saturnalia, city of Saturn, after the Babylonian sun god Saturn. The secret name Saturn means the hidden one. That was revealed only to the members of the mysterious Babylonian religion. But the Romans did not invent the festival. December 25th was the various names all commemorating variations of false Trinity. You know how you have the Father, Son, and Holy Ghost? We're not talking about this Trinity. We're talking about the Father, Mother, and Child. The false Trinity, even though both are false. But according to Christendom, that would be the false Trinity. The so-called belief in the Father, Son, and Holy Ghost, according to them, is the real Trinity. Even though the Bible doesn't support this. 1 Epistle of John chapter 5 verse 7. For there are three that bear witness in heavens: the Father, the Word, and the Holy Ghost, and that these three are one. Nowhere to be found in your Revised Standard Version of the Bible. But the King James Version has it. So it doesn't go to the most ancient manuscripts. They claim it's from the ancient, even though this is a fabrication. Now, the Romans believed that December 25th was various names, all commemorating a false Trinity, and that the mother is the Queen of Heaven, while the child is the Messiah, meaning the false Messiah. Because Jesus is the only Messiah, the Christ. As Hislop, the two Babylonians clearly demonstrates their various stories are based on historical fact. It began in ancient Babylon, where Semiramis, where did you hear Semiramis from? It's the wife of Nimrod. And we're talking about Christmas. Here, a few minutes ago, a few hours ago, I was mentioning about Easter. And in Easter celebration, Nimrod was celebrated as the sun god, and his name was known as Samas Atis Uti Merodach Marduk Ninus Bel Bal Molech Tammuz. He was also known as the Muzi by the Sumerians and Ra by the Egyptians. So now, what is so miraculous about this? Tried to retain her power. Nimrod, the wife, tried to retain her power. After his death, by marrying one of the son named Tammuz. I just mentioned Tammuz right there. Here you have Tammuz. That's shocking. And declaring him the reincarnated Nimrod. The concept that you have of this is reincarnation. And you can get that from the Hindus. Reincarnation. Keep that in mind. That's the point. Through the migration, the story spread throughout the world. Fire is also called Baal or Sirius, like I mentioned earlier in the Christmas holiday. And you have Cupid, Odin, Saturn, Seb, and all this symbolize the Yule log. The mother is called Ishtar, Astarte, the same thing as the Statue of Liberty where they got that from, or known as Libertas. Aphrodite, Isis, not your terrorist group ISIS, but your Egyptian ancient goddess Isis. Cupid, Moloch, is all the names of this mother, holding an infant child. The child, or the Euro, is also known as the moon god, lord of misrule, Bacchus, Thor, lord of fear tree, and Horus. And you know, on the first dollar bill, some people who watch conspiracy theories, I'm not sure if that's true or not, but I know for a fact about this though. You know, on your $1 bill, the pyramid, the eye on the pyramid is symbolizing the Horus, the all-seeing eye. Whoever deal with Illuminati, this is another subject for later, quoting from other people. It's not going to be my words, of course, because these are people who you can trust. I'm not saying things off my head. But this eye is dealing with the all-seeing eye of Horus on the $1 bill. And if I had a $1, I would show it to you. Well, right now we don't have time. But if you have a chance, take your $1 bill and you see an eye standing for all-seeing eye of Horus. This right here, Horus, is the ancient Egyptian goddess who also you can refer to as Ra. Ra is another eye. It's going to sound strange, but keep in touch later. I may make another video on this because there's too much information to give out right now. One example is most enlightening. This shows Aurora as the goddess of dawn, giving birth to the light bringer, who is enlightening the world, Memnon. Isn't it interesting that Lucifer is referred to as the son of the morning? Isaiah chapter 14, verse 12. The Bible tells us that the Satan himself is transformed into an angel of light, which deceived the whole world. 2 Corinthians 11:14. December 25th is not the birthday of Jesus. That's what they're saying right here. Or a Christian holiday. It's not a Christian holiday either. However, it has been decreed by the Roman Catholic holiday. Cardinal Newman, in his book, admits that all holidays, seasons, and devotion and images are pagan origins. Christmas was not adopted from the worldwide celebration of rebirth of the sun god, which was marked by the drunken orgies. Now, before I end this passage, let me read what this person had to say. She says, I'm not going to, right now it says, about the same time, the feast of Christmas was introduced to our ancestors. And guess what she says? It is probable that this was originally the Gothic pagan feast, called Yule or Zul, so called in Scotland to this day. We know the Pope instructed their missionaries not to abolish these things, but rather adopt the heathen rites of the people, among whom they introduced Christianity and adopted their Christian worship. So what we see, what is Yule? You see, when I was mentioning earlier in the video, I was showing you a chart, showing you the wheel of the year. And one of the celebrations of the wheel of the year is Yule. Yule is one of the Gothic feasts or the Wiccan Sabbath. And whoever deal with this subject, they're full of witchcraft. You know why? Because Sabbath itself, not S-A-B-B-A-T-H, S-A-B-B-A-T, means the time when the witchcraft people gather up in a celebration or in a vow with Satan. Renew the vow with Satan. That's what they do. Can you believe it? And these people around the United States, they're celebrating something that they don't even know. That's why I encourage you, my dear brothers, Muslims and non-Muslims, educate yourself on your holidays before you celebrate them. But this wheel of the year, you see this book right here? The Tibetan Book of the Dead. This book. Right here. The manuscript of this book can be compared to the wheel of the year. I'm not saying it is the wheel of the year, but it looks very similar. The reason why you have 12 circles that can represent the 12 zodiac symbols. Also, you have 4 inner circles that form a cross and 4 outer circles that forms when you add it, 4 plus 4 is 8. And you have 4 circles celebrating for the celebration of the wicked Sabbaths. So this is the manuscript of this book called the Bardo Todo. What's so strange about this? Because on the same cycle, same wheel of the year, mentioned the cycle of birth, death, and rebirth, reincarnation. And what is the point? I would like to conclude with something. That all religions, I'm not dealing with religion in specific, like Hindu scriptures, Bhavsha Purana, Prati Sarak, Part 3, Kan 3, Ayat 3, Shalokas 5 to 8, and Shalokas 10 to 27 mentioned Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam by name. The whole prophecy. But I'm not going to go in detail that Hinduism, this book says this, in Buddhist scripture, this book says this. I'm not doing this today. I'm taking your concept, the concept of reincarnation, pantheism, all these other subjects, and putting in one. To show you that Islam is the only religion. And if you go away from this religion, you're going into the shaitan traps. Because Islam has a formula. Believe in one God and believe Prophet Muhammad is the last and seal of the messengers. So whoever believes in this is a Muslim. I'm just going to tell you that take the concepts like the Wiccans. What do they have? You have air, fire, water, and earth, and the spirits. This can go to so many celebrations. Like I mentioned about Ishtar, it goes to ancient Egyptian religions, you go to ancient Greek religions or ancient Roman religions, and you can take these concepts and put it to the Christianity, the pagan Christianity. Because real Christianity was Islam. Ask Jesus, Jesus never heard of the term Christianity. I mentioned this earlier. Ask Moses, he never heard of the term Judaism. Because it was only Islam, Islam, and Islam. Not Christianity or Judaism, Islam is the only one. Because if you deviate from the path, you go into shaitan traps. The Quran says that Abraham is a Muslim. Jesus is a Muslim. All these prophets is a Muslim. Once you say that these are different religions, that's not true. Because Islam is not 600 years after Christianity. It was since the beginning of man, and it will last to the end of Day of Judgment. Because Islam is the only religion. Like the concept of Osiris. When I show you about 3 wise men, about Jesus following him to his birth. Osiris had 3 stars following him to the birth of the sun. Or earlier what I say, I'm not sure if I'm phrasing this correctly, but dealing with the same subject. So many traditions around the world, you can see they've been copying or plagiarizing. What did the Satanists do? In Satanism, the way they perform rituals, they take the devils in this religion, take the devils in that religion, and combine them together to form one main religion that worships or do rituals to Satan. And I read the Satanic Bible. I read part of it. It's a very filthy book. Horrible. But it mentions about the different devils on earth. The so-called devils. And they've been combining it to show that there's only one religion. The Satanists has it right that there's only one religion, but that's Islam. But they try to do the same formula in the wrong way, while Islam does it in the right way. Because they believe in one God, believe in Prophet Muhammad, like I mentioned earlier. Why? Like I just said about Hindu scripture, Prophet Muhammad mentioned by name. I can mention the Christian Bible. In Song of Solomon, chapter 5, verse 16, Prophet Muhammad is mentioned by name. I mentioned this in other lectures. But this lecture is not dealing with that. But the concept of religion is the same. I want to get that clear. Because some people may say, I may say this once and you may not get it. But the concept of religion is the same, but Shaitan been deviating people to worship statues, doing this, doing that. But the concept is the same. The same type of traps he's using. Just only different terms. Like the goddess of prostitution. Ishtar. In Greek, Astarte. In so many other cultures has different names. Thousands of names, according to one report. To trap the people. But we got to be smart on this. To show you that this is Shaitan traps. Only Islam is the only way. Because the Quran says in Surah 112, verse 1 to 4, says, Kul huwa Allahu ahad. Say He Allah is one. Allah is samad. He has no partners. Lam yalid wa lam yulad. He begets not, nor is he begotten. There's none equal to him. Wa lam yakuluhu kufuwan ahad. So to show you that this is only one religion, you don't have to go far. You can see it just through this lecture. This book, the Tibetan Book of the Dead, manuscripts, has the Wheel of the Year. And I read to you the history of the Wheel of the Year earlier. But this book is known as the Bardo Todo. The way that Shaitan traps people can be very similar. You don't have to go very far to combine all the ancient things. Like I was saying about Santa Claus, it can be an anagram for Satan Claus. Why? Because Satan is trying to use this class to grasp people and deviate them from the path. Because there's no such thing in the Bible where it says Santa Claus. Is there? No. So where do you get this word Santa Claus from? They believe it can be from St. Nicholas, they copy it from, or from different things, the god of Odin. But this is not from Christianity, because Santa Claus is not a Christian tradition. So what we see is that Islam is the only religion. If you go away from that path, you go into shaitan traps. And I would like to end my subject with a day with Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. May the peace and blessing of Allah be upon all of you.